Hi everyone! In this video we're going to present the Privacy plugin and how to set it up. The General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, was designed to ensure the right of EU citizens to basic data protection standards. This legislation's primary goal is to create a set of easy-to-follow rules for the entire EU, which uphold the highest standards of data privacy. Despite being an EU regulation, the GDPR will apply to any site that collects data from EU citizens. For example, Uncode, as flexible WordPress theme, can stream external services like YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Fonts, Twitter, Facebook, and tracking codes. All these popular services use cookies and scripts that send personal data. When you use a free service on your website, some personal data, usually your IP address, is sent to the provider in exchange for the free service offered. This data can then be used for marketing activities and targeted advertisements. According to the GDPR legislation, a user must agree through explicit consent before these services are used and before each type of personal data is processed. Suppose that on your website's homepage you use a YouTube video as a background for your main header. When this video is embedded, some personal data about that viewer is sent to the service provider. The GDPR stipulates that users will first have to provide approval through consent before any data is processed. Obtaining this consent needs to be of the utmost importance. At Undesign, we developed the Uncode Privacy plugin. When this plugin is installed and properly configured, it's possible to block usage of third-party services up to the explicit consent of the user. Note that the use of this plugin with Uncode is not mandatory. It will be the website owner who will evaluate whether to use the plugin based on the level of compliance to GDPR each intends to implement. To better understand the features of this plugin and the Uncode's implementations, there is a presentational page in our official demo site that can help to understand the functionality. In this page, there are some videos and audio elements from external services. When accessing the page, unless you have already modified the privacy preferences, none of this media will be active because the consent is not expressly stated. For example, we can see that here we have a video background example and a video lightbox from YouTube, but they are not active. We have a video from Vimeo that is not active, as well as some audio from Spotify and SoundCloud. It's possible to see that any of these media has automatic convenient fallbacks, so as to make sure the user experience conform as much as possible to the original design, and make it at the same time aware of new terms options imposed by the GDPR. The Privacy plugin adds a banner to the website to assist you with GDPR compliance. Here is a notification which informs the user that the site makes use of cookies and third-party technologies, allowing you to link to the privacy policy as well. The message can be configured according to your own needs. It's possible to open the privacy preferences from this banner, from any of the convenient fallbacks, or from custom buttons. In the privacy preferences, there are various consents that can be enabled and configured by the website admin. The user can accept the consents and update their own settings. Only when a user changes the settings and agrees to use these services, the media will be used by the page. Let's modify the privacy preference, save the settings, and here we are. Now the consent is given and the page is using the original media. We have the YouTube video background and YouTube lightbox, the embed from Vimeo, and the SoundCloud and Spotify embeds. In a nutshell, we have chosen to unlock these services. The plugin natively supports YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, Google Fonts, and tracking consents. An interesting extra feature is the consent logic. With the consent logic, you can include or exclude page builder rows based on the user's consent. Let's assume you have in your page an extra plugin that sends personal data, for example, a geolocation map module. With the consent logic, you can exclude this row until consent is given and include another row where consent is not given. When the privacy plugin is active and you have defined at least a consent, in each row and inner row, you will have a new Consent tab. If you want to include or exclude a row based on user's consent, you just need to set the consent and define the Include or Exclude options. In this example, there is a placeholder image of a map with a content blocked notification. If I enable the consent, an interactive Google map will be included in the page. Here is our interactive Google map. I hope this introduction has explained to you what the GDPR is, what the privacy plugin is, and what its most important options are. For all other information related to the use and proper configuration of the plugin, please refer to our documentation, where you can find a detailed guide. Please note that just using Uncode does not guarantee that an organization is successfully meeting its responsibilities and obligations to the GDPR. This video is a brief introduction of the GDPR and presents some of the specific features of Uncode that can help you comply with the regulation. Organizations should assess their unique responsibilities and ensure that any additional measures are taken that are necessary to meet any obligations required by law, as based on a data protection impact assessment.